Hello, welcome to an episode of Cooking with Awesome. I'm your chef tonight, I'm Dan, and tonight we're going to be making Doughball Bolognese. So, there are three stages to this. First of all, there is the Bolognese sauce, then there is the meat that goes with it, and then to top it off, we've got some doughy, garlicky goodness. So, start with the Bolognese sauce. What do we need to make that? We will need some tomatoes. We'll be peeling and chopping these to make part of the sauce. We will need one of these fine looking brown onions, which will add a little bit of flavour to it. We are going to add in a little bit of celery, just to add some crunch. And just for the sake of it, we're going to add in some carrot. As for the meat, in this case we have gone for some minced beef, which should add a nice bit of texture to it. And for the topping, we are going to lay on some mozzarella cheese and cover the whole thing with some garlic bread broken up into small pieces. Okay, first we'll start with the sauce. So we will start with a carrot, which we will top and tail and dice. Obviously it will boil down a bit once you've started cooking with it, so it doesn't have to be too small, but do it to taste. Ideally looking for small chunks. You're going to want to do the same with your stick of celery and with half of an onion. You're going to dice it all up and put it in a pile together. So once your dicing's done, you should have some carrot, celery and onion. What you're going to do next is you're going to preheat an oven to 200 degrees centigrade, that's 400 Fahrenheit. Your main dish will be going in there a bit later. We're also going to put some butter on the heat to melt very briefly, because this will allow us to start frying it. So let's get into our butter. All we need is a very rough knob. It doesn't really matter how much, just don't overdo it. The idea is it melts, coats the pan. So I'm just going to chuck in a knob of butter. Let that start melting. Once that melts, once it's moved around the pan a bit, which I can help with a scoop, the carrot, onion and celery will go into the pan and start to brown off. So, the butter's melted. We are going to take our carrot, celery and onion mixture, we're going to put it in the pan with the butter. We are going to keep this in there for a few minutes until everything starts to soften up. Keep it moving with the butter so it all gets a nice equal coating. It will all start to brown off and soften together. Should take about 5 minutes if you keep it on the move. I've got this on a high heat, it's on 9 out of 12. So while we're keeping the vegetation from going too hard or soft in one place, keeping it moving, it's worth pointing out what we're going to be using to put it in the oven. So I'm going to be using a Pyrex dish. Once the mixture of bolognese is complete, it's going to layer the bottom of this. I'm going to lay the mozzarella over the top and the garlic bread on top of that, and it will then go in the oven. So now that the vegetable matter has softened up a bit, we're going to add in the mincemeat. This is as simple as just taking the meat and chucking it in. So the meat will start to let off its juice immediately into the rest of the mixture. All you've got to do is keep it moving and mix it in with everything else. The butter and the juice from the vegetables should all come together. This will take a few minutes, after which we'll be ready for the next step. While the meat cooks, what you can do is go ahead and dice your tomatoes, chop your tomatoes up, because they're the next step, they're going in next. They will release some of their juice and reduce. That comes up next. Of course, for the more avid chef, while the meat is cooking, you may add a healthy glug of red wine. I'm going to use about 200 ml. because this will help reduce it and show up some of the flavour. So once your meat has browned off, it's time to put in your chopped tomato. This is going to release a lot of liquids into the mixture, so it's a good idea at this point to turn up the temperature a little and allow it to reduce. Again, mix it thoroughly, make sure everything is equally spread out. You will know this stage is done when a lot of the liquids from your pan starts to disappear and the mixture overall, the liquid starts to look much more red. While you wait for your sauce to reduce, what you can be doing is taking your mozzarella cheese and cutting it into slices ready to go over the top when it goes in your dish. You don't want these to be too thick, but you want it to be thick enough that it leaves a layer over the top, so I'm thinking maybe about ½ centimetre thick for each slice. The other thing you can be doing while your sauce reduces is go ahead and break up your garlic bread. So, you've got bread covered in garlic butter, you want it in all sorts of rustic different sizes, so you've got a couple of smaller pieces, you've got a couple of larger pieces. The idea is it's not quite the same, it's going to make the meal look authentic, more rustic, more home done if you like. So once this stuff reduces, it's going to go straight in our dish, the mozzarella slices will go on top of it, and the bread on top of that. Then it will all go in the oven. Okay, once the sauce is reduced, you're going to put it into your dish, the whole mixture, you're going to pat it down, make sure it's evenly layered. You are then going to take your slices of mozzarella and lay them over the top, like so. They don't have to be touching, they just have to be an even covering. Leave a little bit of a gap in between because it will flow a little bit as it melts. So you cover it over. And once your dish is covered with the mozzarella, you bring along your garlic bread and you place that as evenly as you can over the top of the mozzarella. The garlic butter on top of this bread should help keep it from burning while it's in the oven. It's not going to be in there for very long, it's going to be in for about 10 minutes or until the bread browns a little. So you cover it over. Again, remember your bread's in different shapes and sizes, so try and fill as many of the gaps as you can. The bread wants to be a more complete covering if possible. It's what's going to keep in a lot of the moisture from underneath while it bakes. Okay, so now you covered it over, what you're going to do is you're going to put it in the oven for 10 minutes. So, when it comes out of the oven, you'll notice that some of the bread is nicely browned off, the cheese has melted. All that's left to do now is get in there with a scoop, grab some, and get it across on your plate. Typical serving, this dish would serve 4 people. Some adult assistance may be required when dealing with stringy cheese. And so there you have it. Doughball Bolognese, best served with a glass of house red. Salut, until next time everybody.